Hi everybody, this is Darren Chu here. Today I'm going to share with you the largest Asia Pacific hospitality trust, which is called Ascott Residence Trust. This trust have been listed in SGX since 2006. Okay, and one thing about hospitality trust, okay, it is also considered a staple trust. Okay, why is considered a staple trust? Because it is a combination of a REITs and a business trust together. So actually, it is a two-in-one trust. Look at this chart for Ascott. You can look at it. It is formed by a Ascott REITs followed by a Ascott Business Trust. Okay, thus in general, all the hospitality trusts are considered staple trusts as they are built with two trusts within them. One is called the business trust and one is called the REITs. Okay, and under the CPF OA guideline, that all staple trusts are not CPF OA approved. Okay, so you really want to invest in them, you have to use cash or SRS. Okay, and when talk about all these trusts, first thing we want to look at who is the sponsor. Okay, the sponsor is always one of the key part we always look at when we look at trust and REITs aspect. Okay, so the sponsor for this trust is called Ascott Limited, but which indirectly is owned by CapitaLand. Okay, and we know that CapitaLand have more than 120,000 service resident and hotel units globally across 30 countries, and you have more than 30 years of track records. Okay, and the sponsor have more than 40% stake in Ascott Residence Trust. Okay, so this shows that the sponsor have a significant interest in the trust by itself. And what is the property for this trust? It is spread across Asia, Australia, Europe, and US. Total they got 86 property around the world. Okay, and with a total asset more than 7.2 billion. Let's look at the spread out. Okay, you can see that Asia Pacific take out about 68%, Europe 20%, and US 12%. And a lot of people always have the conception of hospitality trust, hospitality REITs means hotel. Okay, but for Ascott Residence Trust, you can see that 56 of their property are actually on service residence. Actually, indirect sometimes called service apartment. Okay, only 18 are hotels, 11 rental housing, and 1 student accommodation. So you can see they have a very well diverse type of property. First is the hotel, then they got the service apartment, then of course then they got a lodging facility for student accommodation or rental property. And when it comes to hospitality trust, you see there's two forms of income. Okay, one they call it the stable income, and the other one they call it the growth income. The stable income are mainly called the master leases, okay, or the maintenance contract with minimum guarantee income. So with this, it means that no matter how the market move up or down, the trust will still continue to collect income, rental income from the hotel, from the operator of the properties. Okay, next we got this management contract. This will be based on the performance of the properties. Okay, thus if the property is good, there is a higher potential income. So thus they call it a growth stream of income. So this is how a hospitality trust usually work. They got two part of income, one mainly for the stable and one mainly for the growth income. And every trust they will have a different weightage. Okay, some may be 50% on stable, 50% variable, or some may be 40% stable and 60% on the growth aspect. Okay, and let's look at the financial indicator for this trust. Okay, everything look pretty okay except there's one concern, is this interest cover. Okay, this interest cover is 2.1 times. MAS regulation for REITs is 2.5 and above. Okay, so actually this trust falls short of MAS regulation. Okay, however, last year April, due to the COVID, MAS have actually indirectly temporarily waived off this 2.5 times requirement, as they know that certain trusts will suffer quite a fair bit due to the COVID-19, and in fact all the hospitality trusts listed in Singapore, all their interest cover fall below 2.5. Thus, no need to be very alarmed on this 2.1 currently, because as it's now we know that we are not out of the wood yet, and still a lot of lockdown happening. Thus, hotel operation, hospitality operation is greatly affected. Okay, and their interest cover below the requirement is expected in a way. Okay, it's just that we need to monitor that when the market start to open up, economy start to open up, would they able to recover back? Okay, so this is one thing we take a look. And next, their gearing is 36.1%. Okay, which is still on a very healthy range, and it also means that they got headroom to grow. In other words, they got headroom to acquire more properties going forwards. Okay, without with a lesser extent of equity fundraising. We know that a lot of hotels now are not in full operation and revenue have suffered a lot. Then what about this trust? Are they able to survive through this pandemic? And they actually have $1.2 billion of available fund, of which 360 million is cash on hand. Okay, so what does that mean? That means that for the next 3 years, if there is no income for the trust at all, that means zero income from the 86 property, the trust still can survive for 3 years. Okay, still can survive. So actually this is a very worst case scenario. It is very unlikely to have 3 years no income. Okay, so this is show that financially they are pretty strong, and most likely they were able to tie through this crisis. Okay, and we found that that may be an opportunity for every one of us. Okay, let's look at their performance. This is their past 5-year performance. One thing we want to focus is more on the DPS. Okay, it's a dividend per stapled securities. Okay, and do think they call DPS is not called DPU because it's called stapled securities. But look at the DPS, actually it's not really on an uptrend. When I talk about DPU or DPS, we are looking at uptrend going forward. Okay, however, for this trust, it is not really on uptrend. Actually, it come down, then slightly click up before the pandemic come, and you have a drastic drop. Okay, so the past track record is not really very impressive, and the dividend yield is about 5 to 6%. Okay, which is pretty decent for this trust. And let's look at their gearing. Their gearing is hover around 36%. Okay, except 2019 33. So their gearing is pretty healthy currently. Okay, with the interest coverage ratio, as I mentioned already, because due to the pandemic, it have dropped drastically. But we just need to monitor this. When the economy start to reopen, start to recover, we see where this interest coverage ratio pick up. If you really pick up, then you can just have peace of mind. If you didn't pick up, then there's something we need to be concerned about that. And this is a chart for Ascott Resident Trust. It merged with Ascenders Hospitality Trust early last year. Okay, and you can see that after the merger, the price go up to 138, and after that, due to pandemic, it have dropped to about 67 cents. Okay, dropped to 6, and it has started to recover, but it go up and down, and now we can see some weakness. Okay, on the price currently. It is currently slightly below the NAV. Okay, which may be also another opportunity. If the price will recover back to NAV, there's some upside capital gain. However, let's look at the performance in the past. The total return for until 30th of April is no growth. For last year is 22%. Okay, 22%. As we start from a low and it go up, definitely it will be on a double-digit gain. And we look at annualized total return. 3 year, 5 year, 10 years is about 2.7 to 6%. Okay, what does, I just want to emphasize what is annualized total return means. Annualized total return actually include the dividend you collected. I mean the dividend plus the capital gain. That is the total return. So last time we look at the dividend yield is about 5.68 to 6%. What does that mean? That means if you hold this REIT for about 10 years, practically you don't really have much capital appreciation. You only collect the dividends. Okay, this is a bit different from some of the REITs that give you double-digit annualized capital gain, where you have a growing dividend plus a capital appreciation. Okay, so this is how this REIT have performed in the past. So why I want to talk about this REIT is I look at it now is a pandemic period, and we know that and I feel that this will be a risk for recovery play. What is the concern for this risk is this year there is no property that going to expire, so this is at least a big relief for the risk aspect, because if there's a property lease going to expire this year, they need to renegotiate the lease, and with current market situation, current condition, most likely the operator may request for lower rent, lower rent or changes of the master lease, just like what happened last year where the French property, they have renegotiated from a master lease, which is, remember, is called a stable income, and renegotiate to become a management contract, become a growth income, and at this juncture the growth income definitely will be much lesser than the master lease income. So this is our concern if there is any lease were to expire this year, but luckily there is no lease going to expire this year. However, you look at 2022 and 2033, there is about 40+% of the property the lease going to expire, and the renegotiation will need to kickstart, maybe start this year. And we look at the World Tourist Organization, what have they mentioned is they expect there's a potential rebound on travel by second half of this year. Actually we have started to see that, like some country like US, they start to mask off and the crews start to able to travel, so people have start to move. However, a full recovery to 2019 level will take 2.5 to 4 years. So we will not expect a full recovery in 2.5 to 4 years later for a travel to resume completely. And this actually got some impact on this trust, as some of 40% of the lease will going to expire in the next 2 years. So this is one of the concerns, and we will need to see how the manager going to mitigate this. Then what about the growth potential? So why I like this trust is the manager don't just sit out there and do nothing. So early this year they have started to change the mandate for this trust. What is the changes for this is they have included student accommodation to be part of the mandate. So initially this trust only had service apartment and hotel. Service apartment, so that you got longer tenancy compared to hotel where you only stay 3 to 5 days. Service apartment you can stay 6 months, 1 year. So at least there's a stability of income. And now they're going to include student accommodation, especially in the West, like US. When the child go to university to study, they will stay in the campus, they will stay in the hostel, and that's where student accommodation come in, and usually they will stay there for a few years. This indirectly generates stable income for the trust aspect. So they have started to go into student accommodation since early this year. And what have they done? They have just acquired one in US, and that's early this year. Plus they also have rental housing property in Japan, where they rent house to the Japanese and they collect rental income at the same time. Currently this long stay property only contribute about 7% of the portfolio, but they are looking into double it to 10 to 15% of the portfolio, which indirectly will help to create more stability to these REITs on the income aspect. As we invest in this trust, we also want to look at dividend income, and if there's more stability, then it will give us more better peace of mind. And on top of that, they have cash on hand. Do take note, they got cash on hand. So with this cash on hand, actually they can use it to do acquisition and no need to really do equity fundraising at this juncture to buy more properties. So that is a plus point for this trust. And next we want to look at the recovery across all market. Every market have recovered from the pandemic differently. Just like for Singapore, we can't travel. We can only go for a staycation. Just go for a staycation every 1 to 2 months, and that's where it gives business to a local hotel. Same thing for other countries, they also start to travel, but there's domestic travel. As like for example Europe, US, the country is big, so domestic travel actually is quite a big market there compared to Singapore aspect. And based on trip advisory indicator, you can see that most of them are in stage 4 already. Means what? Domestic travel has started to resume, like Australia, China, okay, US, Vietnam. The domestic travel has started to resume, and like France, Japan, Singapore, okay, and UK, we are starting to resume domestic travel. Okay, and this is good for this trust is they have property. Do think that they have 86 property across the world, and thus they are very well diversified across the region, the global, and when there's a domestic travel in the country, actually indirectly will benefit this trust. So I take this as a potential and a recovery potential for this trust compared to other trusts in the same category. Now let's look at the comparison of the hospitality REITs that is listed in Singapore. Okay, we got 5 pure hospitality REITs, okay, listed in Singapore, and we look at Ascott. In terms of market cap, they are number 1. They are more than double in market cap of the number 2, which is CDL. They are 100% bigger in terms of market cap compared to the number 2. Okay, as when you look at trust or REIT, size actually really matters. Okay, because size and gearing will determine how much headroom they have for them to do property acquisitions. Okay, thus this is something that I want to focus on this rather than the rest. And also we look at the interest cover ratio. As I mentioned, you guys see that all the hospitality trust, the interest cover ratio is less than 2.5. So it's a market issue, it's not really the trust issue. And the gearing is the lowest among the rest of the hospitality trust, with biggest market cap, lowest gearing among their peer. This make them position better for them to do acquisitions, okay, for other property during this pandemic period by avoiding equity fundraising. Next, we look at where is all the property layout compared to the rest. Particularly, you can see Ascott have the most diversified property compared to the rest of the trust. It is diversified across everywhere, every region, and thus, if you ask me to decide on a recovery play for hospitality trust, I personally will more inclined to this. That's all for me about Ascott Residence Trust. Okay, however, do take note, this is not a buy or sell recommendation. Do your own due diligence. If you find you have benefit from this video, do like and share this video, and do remember to subscribe and press the bell button so that you will be notified for the next video. I will see you in the next video. Thank you.